April hasn't been the best month for new releases on the Nintendo Switch. Among a few standout titles, there are mostly some lackluster indie games to scroll through. Because of this, it would be easy to throw Masters of Anima by the wayside, which, in my opinion, would be a massive disservice to this game. Masters of Anima is a top-down adventure game where you take control of Otto, an impatient young man who is learning how to use an energy called anima to animate warriors called guardians to fight at his side and become a legendary shaper. While he doesn't have a natural talent for that ability, he has to bite the bullet and improve his skills when his much more impressive fiancée is captured by the evil Lord Zahn. It's a standard hero's journey scenario, but Masters of Anima's strength is what it does with this premise. By giving the game a fantastical and mechanical feel, it's very unique in its setting, so much so that the formulaic story never became grating. Furthermore, it's made a bit more interesting by Otto finding pieces of his fiancée throughout his adventures that allow the writers to flex their creative muscles and give the main character someone to play off of. That said, it's important to note that Otto, right out of the gate, isn't that interesting of a character. While it's refreshing to see someone who isn't the fabled chosen one taking the lead role, after the first few cutscenes, we don't get a lot of personality out of him other than I have to save the woman I love. From the moment you boot up the game, it's clear that Masters of Anima was inspired by games like Pikmin. Otto uses anima to summon a series of different types of guardians who then follow him in a pack and can be commanded as a group or individually. You'll start with standard swordsmen, but you'll quickly find yourself sporting archers and commanders as the game progresses. These guardians each have their own strengths and weaknesses, and it's your job to micromanage them all when fighting giant golems. It's incredibly satisfying when you start to get into a rhythm and command all of your guardians to victory. Unfortunately, there is a bit of a catch here. The way the game introduces you to all of the commands needed to control your army isn't all that intuitive. While you're trying to keep track of 4 different guardian types while an enemy is getting ready to launch an attack, you're almost guaranteed to lose a few. This isn't so much an issue early in the game, but when you're trying to manage 100 guardians at the same time, it can really test your patience. Fighting isn't the only thing you'll be doing with your army though. The game is split up in levels that will also give you a fair share of puzzles to complete. While it never goes beyond each guardian type doing a unique action, it's when those elements are blended together that the puzzles are interesting and really make you think. Otherwise, they aren't too difficult to get past, and it's obvious that the puzzles weren't the focus of the game. When it comes to fighting, the only enemies you'll be doing combat with are evil golems that are controlled by the main antagonist. They all have the same color scheme, but each different type is designed with a different fighting style in mind. Because of this, it's your job to alter your playstyle to overcome each challenge, making a lot of the bosses feel like puzzles of their own. Sometimes I had to change my strategy quite a bit, like using more healers and less fighters, and other times I could approach them more or less the same way I would fight other golems. The combat and puzzles come together for a series of enjoyable levels. The only issue here is that they're all quite predictable. They boil down to get a group of guardians, solve some puzzles, fight some golems, rinse and repeat. Essentially, you'll know what to expect from the entire game after playing the first few levels. That's not to say Masters of Anima is boring, it's just something to keep in mind if you plan on picking this one up. Masters of Anima, as a whole, plays around with fantasy and strategy to create a unique experience that has yet to be found on the Nintendo Switch. While there are some questionable design choices and some frustrating moments, there's a charming experience that's waiting for you to give it a shot. That's why we at Switchera are giving it a 7.5 out of 10.